Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Post. I'm Sid Rosenberg for OpenSports.com and the National Football Post. We are now a quarter of the way through the season, so it's likely make or break time for your fantasy football team. So now that it's crunch time, let's bring in my main man, Joe Fortenbaugh, the great fantasy expert at NF Post. Joe, how are you today?
Very good, Sid. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Very exciting football season going on. Great fantasy action. Joe, the Chiefs and Browns are two of the worst teams out there, but there seems to be some players emerging on their roster that have some fantasy value all of a sudden. Talk about those guys.
Wide receiver Mohamed Massaquoi, the rookie out of Georgia, playing for the Cleveland Browns right now, had a very good weekend, had over 100 yards receiving for the Browns in their loss against Cincinnati on Sunday. The key here was the targets. Derek Anderson targeted him over 10 times this weekend, targeted more than even Braylon Edwards. That's a good sign for wide receivers that they're building a rapport with their quarterback. Anderson's the better choice in Cleveland. He's a more vertical passer. He's more accurate down the field. Massaquoi is not the type of guy you can add to your roster and have every week consistent production, but he could be someone that comes in and helps in spot start situations. In Kansas City, I would continue to monitor running back Jamal Charles. He's backing up Larry Johnson right now, but the key is Larry Johnson's averaging less than 3 yards a carry. He hasn't found the end zone this year. It's been a very slow season. He doesn't look good when he has the ball in his hands. Charles is a little bit more dynamic, can make plays out of the backfield, has that speed and that burst that Kansas City's looking for. Keep your eye on him because there could be a chance that Kansas City makes the switch sometime in the future.
All right, Joe, speaking of awful, the Rams have scored 24 points in 4 games this season. Is anyone on the Rams, even Steven Jackson, worth having on your roster at this point?
Jackson's basically the only guy. As far as receiving goes, Mark Bolger went down with the injury. Now Kyle Bowler's in there. We've seen him before. He's been ineffective and inconsistent at times. With Laurent Robinson out for the season, the wide receiver, the only two you can look to are Keenan Burton and Donnie Avery. They haven't produced consistent numbers. If you need help and you're in a deeper league, Donnie Avery might be the type of guy to look after, but Keenan Burton, a little too inconsistent. The Rams, you just want to stay away right now.
All right, Joe, last week we discussed the bad starts from Matt Forte with the Bears and Steve Slayton in Houston, but they finally delivered. Should we expect more like we saw on Sunday, or do they have more downs than ups ahead of them, those two guys?
I think you're going to see ups and downs with them on a weekly basis, but the last Sunday was definitely a good showing for both players. Forte found the end zone, but got 120 yards on the ground and found the end zone. Looked very productive, averaged over 10 yards a carry. Slayton, total yardage just under 100, but found the end zone twice against the Raiders. It's good to build the confidence. It's good for these guys that in their second year, they're starting to produce a little bit more. They might get more into a rhythm. I'm thinking that this is going to be a situation. These two continue to progress. You want to play them when the matchups are good.
Return from a much-needed bye week. Donovan McNabb and Brian Westbrook were both back in practice on Monday, Joe. What do you think fantasy owners should do with these two guys long-term in Philadelphia?
Well, McNabb's going to be a must-start this weekend against the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's a great quarterback. He was a top 10 in our projections coming out this season. Deshaun Jackson's a very nice weapon. And even if Westbrook can't go, LaShawn McCoy, the rookie out of Pittsburgh, is an excellent running back option as well. Philadelphia's been clicking on offense, even with Kevin Cobb in the lineup. Donovan McNabb's going to end up being a must-start. Westbrook, you want to continue to monitor the situation. Make sure when he comes back, he's getting the carries. Right now, it's a little early, but if he's on your roster, he looks like a good start for Week 5.
All right, Joe, time to buy and sell, our favorite part of the program here. Let's start with Dolphins running back Ronnie Brown. Big effort against Buffalo on Sunday. Time to sell high on him. We all remember what he did last year for that monster game against New England. Is this a good time to buy or sell here with Ronnie Brown?
If you were going to do either, it would have to be sell. The reason is you never want to buy when the player's value's through the roof coming off a game like Buffalo. Brown has been excellent this year. The offense in Miami runs through him, especially with Chad Henne at quarterback now. You want to make sure you have a solid running game. If you're going to do anything with Ronnie Brown, you're going to sell him.
All right, Julius Jones, Seahawk running back, Joe, only 25 yards on 11 carries versus the Colts last weekend. What do you do with Julius Jones?
I wouldn't want Julius Jones on my roster at any point, but if you've got him on your team, you can't sell him right now. His value's down. His last 3 weeks, he hasn't gone over 200 total yards combined for the last 3 weeks. Yes, he's found the end zone twice, but he's not bringing that consistent fantasy production. If you're going to do either, you're going to buy in this situation. You can get him at a good value, but the schedule down the stretch for Seattle, coupled with the fact that the quarterback play has been a little inconsistent, you want to stay away from Julius Jones altogether.
Leon Washington of the Jets, just 8 touches and a loss to the Saints, has not found the end zone this season. They've got the Dolphins here on Monday night. What about Leon Washington?
Washington's a tricky one. He hasn't been as consistent as owners would like this year. He's a good buy right now. I don't think the value is very high. I think that when you look at the situation, Leon Washington hasn't been getting as many touches as a lot of people thought. Owners are a little frustrated with his performance right now. He's not giving them consistent play and can't crack the starting lineup in a lot of leagues. Leon Washington's a good buy.
Greg Jennings, wide receiver for the Packers here, just 5 catches for 134 yards in his last 3 games. What about Greg Jennings in Green Bay?
Buy. Definitely buy right now. Jennings is an outstanding wide receiver. Last night was a rough outing against the Minnesota Vikings. He was matched up with Antoine Winfield, who's one of the best, most elite corners in the game today. There was serious pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay needs to get the offensive line problems fixed more than anything right now. But Greg Jennings is a playmaker. He's going to have a big season. If you can get him for a cheap price right now, buy.
Trent Edwards has been awful in Buffalo through 3 picks, got sacked 6 times by the Dolphins on Sunday, and that is affecting the rest of the guys on offense. Lee Evans and T.O. doing very little. What about that Buffalo Bill wide receiving duo? What about those 2 guys?
Very difficult. I would say Terrell Owens is a good buy right now. Eventually, they're going to have to get the game going. Terrell Owens, just like Brandon Marshall, he's got the talent. He's getting up there in age, but he's still a playmaking wide receiver. Games are going to be difficult for him. But T.O. owners are very frustrated with what they're seeing. You should be able to get him for a very good price. He is a good buy right now.
All right, fair enough. As always, Joe, fantastic information. Doing a great job here twice a week. Thank you so much. This has been fun.
Thank you, Sid.
We'll see you again on Thursday right here for more fantasy football coverage. Remember, you can also follow Joe at Joe Fortenbaugh on Twitter for more great fantasy updates. Also, you can check him out nfpost.com each and every day. For my good friend Joe Fortenbaugh, I'm Sid Rosenberg, and as always, folks, enjoy the football.